Hi there and welcome. Jonathan here. These talks are offered freely so that no one is ever denied access to these practices. Your support makes a big difference. If you feel inspired to make a donation, please go to jonathanfoust.com. Thank you. Did you find the body scan meditation relaxing? I did. I peeked. I saw that a few people were having the whiplash meditation experience. And a few were deep in the theta brainwave states, so just sort of. So if you came to with someone on your lap, that's one of the great benefits of body scan. I always know that I'm just a little bit sleepy when I'm meditating and I go to brush something off my shoulder and I find out it's the floor. So that's something to be aware of. 2 weeks ago, I was gifted with this really, really cool book. It's called the Ladybird Book of Mindfulness. It's British. And thereby has some British humor. You're welcome to take a look at it. I'll just read a few of these lines. Allison has been staring at this beautiful tree for 5 hours. She was meant to be in the office. Tomorrow she will be fired. In this way, mindfulness will have solved her work-related stress. In ancient times, Guru Beland entered a state of mindfulness that lasted 35 years. During this time, he thought about everything. When he had finished, he wrote the answer on a grain of rice. He never married. Laura tried mindfulness to get in touch with her inner child. It turns out that Laura's inner child had been prescribed an experimental cough medicine and was having some very vivid dreams. Poor Laura. You have to check it out. It's great. Thank you for this wonderful gift. So, a little inquiry for you. For this next 45 minutes for this talk, if you could just close your eyes for a moment. And just to reflect, what is your intention for the next 45 minutes or hour? And you might, in your own way, just complete the following phrase and notice what word pops in. And if a word doesn't pop in, just complete the sentence with a phrase that resonates for you. Completing the following. I am here to. And you can open your eyes if you like. I would guess that might have been, I'm here to relax, I'm here to be open, I'm here to maybe learn something. That's the topic of tonight is intention. I'm offering a series about the Eightfold Path, which are kind of the observances that the Buddha prescribed for how to reduce or eliminate suffering in your life. And to summarize them, the first one is to identify the path that's out in front of you. The second is to be kind and learn how to surrender your life. The third is say what's true, kind, and useful. The next, practice doing no harm. The next, make your life a contribution to the greater good. The next, keep going. The next is be here now. And the next is stay focused on what's most important. It's kind of a quick summary of the Eightfold Path. What I'd like to talk about tonight is the distinction between a goal and an intention. And a little bit about how as you refine your intention, you absolutely affect your karma. The outcome of your thoughts, speech, and actions rests on the point of intention. And to touch on the three main intentions, sort of through Buddhist psychology, that have the greatest impact. And finally, how any intention you have is designed to bring you back to the here and now, to kind of the felt sense of here and now. So I've always been big in the goal setting. And having goals has really affected my life quite a bit. This is what I want, and strategize how to get there, and been quite satisfying. But I've also made some really big mistakes in setting goals. Usually, I have way too many goals, way too many things that I want to do, and I set myself up for failure. Either I just reinforce some sense that it's never quite enough, never quite good enough. And I think that's a chronic thing for humans. Have you noticed how the goals you set for yourself are always a little bit beyond what's reasonable? Kind of reinforces that sense of strain. The other thing is the importance that I found of clarifying the difference between having a goal and having an intention. And that can be a helpful little distinction. So I do an annual report every year where I review what worked, what didn't work, and what I'm working on next. So I have some broad goals for myself. One of them is about being the most effective teacher that I can be. And that includes, this class and the year of living mindfully and retreats and trainings and all of my offerings. So part of that means getting feedback and listening to my talks and exploring the most effective ways I can be a good communicator and contribute that way. Another goal I have is sort of under the broad heading of cultivating creativity, because I find there's so much that emerges out of the creative process. So having goals for myself is really, really helpful. It just forces me into it. Doing these weekly talks and getting them online, doing a monthly newsletter, publishing my photographs, doing a monthly video, and working toward a photo exhibition. Like having those goals, really, I just have to keep coming up with new stuff. And it's a wonderful balance of sort of like discipline, but also a lot of joy I get out of that creative process. The third area of goals I have is around creating more wholesome habits that support me in being more aware, being more healthy, being happy. And by doing that, I'm always kind of evaluating the habits I'm trying on. We've talked here before about having observances, certain practices you take on, and restraints. Consciously not doing certain things, and seeing what happens. So that kind of experimentation I find to be really, really helpful. But goals are about a future outcome. You have to plan it, you have to visualize it, and hopefully you make it measurable so you know you did it or not. And intention is different. And intention is about how you want to be in the process. It's the path and the quality of presence that you want to pursue as you work toward your goals. An intention for me, which has really always been kind of a growing edge for me, is to have fun while I'm doing all this. Because sometimes I found that with my goals, the stuff I wanted to accomplish, I would sort of spiral down to a pretty grim place where it was just about grinding out these goals I had set for out there. But cultivating that intention of having fun has really changed my life quite a bit. A number of years ago, I did a grueling program. And at the end, you had to stand in front of the whole group. And there's a certain language. You spent the whole weekend learning the language. And so you would say, I must stand for the possibility that life can be, and fill in the blank. Pretty simple, but if you didn't say it with conviction, the group would say, I didn't get it, say it again. And it was amazing. Because there was, one woman who said, I must stand for the possibility that life can be empowering. It's like, no, we didn't get it. Do it again. And by the end, 15 minutes later, she was like, I must stand. And the group is cheering. I thought, what the heck am I going to say? And that's what came out of my mouth. The possibility that life can be fun. And so when I come back to that intention, it just refreshes how I want to be in my life. Here's a wonderful little poem from Rumi that kind of speaks to that tendency we have toward getting grim and too serious about our lives. What is the difference between your existence and the existence of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual path is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has made such a fantastic move that the saint is now continually tripping over with joy, bursting out in laughter and saying, I surrender. Whereas, my dear, I'm afraid you think you still have 1,000 serious moves. When it comes to spiritual practice, to meditation, whatever your practice may be, that brings you in a greater sense of aliveness and non-judging awareness, and to the mystery, it's always helpful to ask yourself why. Why are you practicing? Why are you paying attention? And that question can help you hook up with your passion, with that whole quality of presence that emerges from that sort of non-intellectual felt sense of what's calling you to greater aliveness in your life. So as we're exploring our lives, how to assess how skillful you are toward moving toward that which is calling you, it always becomes a question of what are you doing and what are you not doing, and evaluating that. And much of spiritual practice has to do with discipline, with taking on practices that sort of provide a new edge for you. And unless you know why, then the practices become quite empty. In my years of living in a spiritual community, I took on some pretty rigorous practices, among them a celibacy vow for 6.5 years and a poverty vow for 13. The intention was to live simply, and part of that was to refrain from sexual contact as part of that. You might be asking, how could you do that? And I ask myself that question a lot. Myself. How could I do that? But despite the lack of money and sex, there was an intention that was fueling it. And believe me, it was rigorous. It was a rigorous practice. The intention that drove it was a desire to wake up and to see where I was caught. And what I saw was, with the practice of celibacy, the need, the desire for intimacy, the desire for connection, but also seeing all the ways that I projected all over the place, the ways that I was interpreting, the whole binaural code, when you're particularly at that age, makeable, not makeable, If I say this, maybe it means this, and maybe we can do that. And when that was taken away, it just revealed this kind of desiring, clinging quality of consciousness. And I saw my need, my want for financial security, and in work, because we were just doing this sort of selfless practice form of work, just the desire for recognition. And seeing it was so, so helpful and so freeing. But if I hadn't had the why, that sincere desire to become more awake, I never would have made it through the challenges of those years and years and years of discipline that it took. We live in such a competitive society here, where we're forced into constantly comparing and judging ourselves against others. One of the elements of the Eightfold Path is called right livelihood. About finding the work that really resonates for you, that contributes. But this is where intention can be so helpful, particularly around work, because so often it's about dominating or avoiding domination. The law of the jungle really makes its way into the work world. For me, in my practice of kind of these rigorous austerities, I began to see how much my work meant in terms of my own identity. And then what I remembered, the practice is to really find, where can I find freedom in work? I realized that everything I was doing was about me, promoting myself, demonstrating what a good, successful person I was, or avoiding anyone knowing what an incompetent person I was. And I took on a new intention in my work, which was to truly try and be of service. I remember reading some book that said, that make your boss look good. Take that on as your primary practice. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be interesting? And so I took that on as my practice. Everything I do is I'm going to make my boss look good. I'm just going to be a contribution. The paradox of that, of letting go of my own need for recognition, was that it freed up a lot of fear. And of course, a lot of recognition came because I was giving myself fully without holding back. So that intention to be of service created a completely different outcome. And intention plays a huge role in terms of your karma, or the results of your actions. A number of years ago, about a little over 10 years now, I declared there were 4 things that I would never do. I would never move somewhere without a job. I would never move to a metro area. I would never get married. And I would never renovate a house. So after I moved to D.C. with no job and married Tara, we bought a house and started fixing it up. Preceding renovating the house, which I really, really didn't want to do, we had our wedding. And as we were sort of working out our wedding vows, like, what are we going to say? How are we going to craft this? We realized that we took this as an occasion to state our bodhisattva vows. And the bodhisattva vows are a vow of service. The intention to be of service. So this is how we articulate it when we said our vows in our wedding. May whatever arise serve the awakening of heart and mind and be of service to all beings. Pretty sweet. That may whatever arise part provides lots of opportunity. So in renovating this house, as you can imagine, it's just crazy if you've ever done it. If you haven't, don't. But we had some huge conflict. I cannot remember the details, but I found myself just in a tight little knot of self-judgment and judging her and just feeling like this is intolerable. How do I get out of this mess? And then somewhere in the dark recesses of my reptilian brain, I remembered that intention. May whatever arise serve the awakening of heart and mind and be of benefit to all beings. And remembering that intention, it just shifted everything. Oh, yes, okay. How do I revisit this? I'm so grateful for that vow. I forget it all the time. But when I do remember it, it completely reframes whatever conflict I'm in and opens up possibilities where they simply didn't exist before. So perhaps we can do a little reflection. If you like, you can close your eyes. This will be just for a minute or two. You might bring into mind just someone you might have a little conflict with. Maybe just like a tough interaction or some sense of dissatisfaction. And as you think of that person, what is your intention in this relationship? What is your deepest intention? And you might imagine if you were to act from that intention through your thoughts and your speech and your actions, what would that be like? How could this interaction serve the awakening of heart and mind and be of benefit? So if you like, you can deepen your breath. If you like, you can open your eyes, or you can remain with them closed. When you're clear on an intention, it plants a seed. And that seed will sprout. It might sprout right away. It might sprout much, much later. But remembering intention can be so, so helpful. The classic story is, imagine, there's someone who plunges a knife into someone and they die. Well, if that's a surgeon who's trying to save someone's life, there's a certain karma that comes from that, as opposed to someone who is acting out of anger. So your experience right now has been dramatically affected by your karma, by your past intentions and your actions. The most direct way you can affect your future is to examine your motivation and your intentions. Deepak Chopra once said that he can look at your body and tell you about all of your previous habits that have come out of your intention. But if you speak of your intention and look at your habits now, he can tell you about your health in the future. So intention is really a critical thing here. You can transform a difficult situation by tweaking your intention. And there are some guidelines that came out of the Buddhist psychology that can be very, very helpful. There are three kind of uber intentions that the Buddha spoke of. The story is, as he was meditating in the forest, he realized that there are two basic groupings of thoughts. There were thoughts of desire, ill will, and harmfulness. And there were thoughts of renunciation, goodwill, and harmlessness. It's been said that the operative force running through us really comes down to fear or love. Fear contracts, you calcify around protection of a small self. Love expands and opens you to the interconnectivity of this human experience. And so we all know what that's like, to sense the difference between the two. When you're overwhelmed by desire, when you're caught in ill will, hatred, judgment, blame, when you are so hurt that you wish ill on another person. And at that same time, those moments of non-desire, those moments in your life where there's just that pure contentment, nothing to add, nothing to take away. The moments where you just spontaneously are a well-wisher of all. And the desire of to do no harm. Intention really affects the outcome here. So the first intention of renunciation goes directly against countering desire. The natural tendency of the human mind is desire. Desire drives everything. The Buddha said that his teachings run contrary to the way of the world. The world runs on desire. And this teaching is exactly the opposite. Desire reinforces the sense of a small self, and it's about confronting that illusion of control. So this is a little contemplation that's kind of offered in one of the suttas. If you like, you can close your eyes. It's kind of a sweet one. And this is an invitation on how to contemplate the conditioned experience in this fleeting world. To think of this as a tiny drop of dew or a bubble floating in a stream, like a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, or a flickering lamp, an illusion, a phantom, or a dream. And this is how all conditioned existence is to be seen. So remembering that everything changes, everything conditioned changes. That this life is just a bubble in a stream, it's a lightning flash. Desire is not bad. There is wholesome desire which one can cultivate. The desire to be more awake, the desire to contribute, the desire to be free inside. Those are wholesome desires. But quite often our desire is informed by stress, by a thirst for more. The word tanha in Pali means thirst. And that's what so drives our lives when we're not paying attention. The second intention that you can cultivate is the intention of goodwill. And this goes directly against the nature of the mind toward ill will, toward judgment and blame. It's the capacity to create empathy, your capacity to really imagine what another person is feeling, to role reverse. When you can do that, when you begin to see yourself in others, and others in yourself, there's a connectedness that begins to flow. I was reflecting on this, and at the local bank I go to, they're unbelievably good at learning your name. And when someone asked me once about changing banks, I realized I had this fierce loyalty to my bank. Because, 5 or 6 tellers know my name. But that connectedness is a powerful thing. To really be seen is enormous. And when you can see others, it's extraordinary. So the third intention to cultivate is harmlessness. And this isn't directly countering the natural quality we have of wanting to harm others who have hurt us. We tend to think that, like the desire, there's this fear that wants to harm others. But what we forget is how we automatically harm ourselves first. The classic teaching the Buddha spoke of is like picking up a hot coal to throw at someone without realizing that hot coal is burning your hand. The primary target for our harm is usually ourselves. We tend to hold ourselves in some form of contempt. Our bodies are not fast enough, strong enough, we're not smart enough, etc., etc. So the cultivation of karuna or compassion is so critical for shifting that equation. Compassion can bring a powerful sense of joy, a capacity to hold this life. It's remembering that everyone you know is struggling in some way. Everyone you know and meet will get sick, will get old, and will die. And it's about remembering that. So when we're caught in this judging, comparing mind, we're bound by a small self. And remembering these three intentions, it opens us up in sometimes dramatic ways. So we have our goals, which we visualize, which we move toward. But when we remember our intention, it's about remembering the path, how you want to feel on your way, in your journey. The intention is always bringing you back to the here and now. It can be tied into a goal which is future-oriented, but it's also about this moment. How do you live in this moment? My intention for this talk was to be fully present as best as I can, and to access my enthusiasm for these practices and to offer it in a way that might be helpful for you. So that intention helps to inform my present moment and what I came back to. So when you think about your intention at the beginning of this talk, I am here to. Were you successful? Just curious. So intention is about remembering your relationship to the moment. And so often as I work with people who practice meditation, I really get to see this judging mind, the contempt we have for ourselves. I can't do this. I can't sustain attention on the present moment. I'm overwhelmed with different thoughts and emotions. I stink at this. And that's why I oftentimes suggest, what if the intention was to be kind? Not so much about one-pointed awareness, not so much about open monitoring. What if the intention was just to be kind? No matter what happens, let that be your foundation. It's a pretty dramatic shift. This practice of kindness is extraordinary. When the Dalai Lama said, "My religion is kindness," I don't think he made that up in the moment. I think we can take something from that being the fruit of his practice over a lifetime. So we have these intentions that are sort of suggested through Buddhist psychology. of cultivating kindness, cultivating presence, etc. But there are also ways that you can use intention. And that is just to ask yourself at the beginning of a day, how do I want to be in this day? I use a journal program that pings me 4 times a day. So whatever device I'm on, it hits me. And what it says is like, what are you doing now? And what's your intention for the next segment? And sometimes it's really annoying, I have to admit. But sometimes it's really quite powerful. And one way, a practical way you can use intentions is, as a friend of mine described it, segment intentions. So that when you're going to have dinner with someone, you ask yourself, what's my intention for this? How do I want to feel at the end of this dinner? And oftentimes, that little pause will inform how you will be. And by asking yourself, you may remember that during the course of that dinner. So as best I can, I try and practice that. Okay, here's this afternoon in front of me. All right, how do I want to be in this? What do I want to remember? And that has helped me quite a bit. So you might try that on. Why don't we close with a short meditation, a little reflection on intention. So you might again just feel the breath, and in these final moments, just reflecting on this intention. One word is renunciation, but another way to explore this word is a sense of non-desire. In this moment, what does non-desire feel like? To want for nothing, but to say yes to what is right here, right now. And the second intention, which counters our tendency toward ill will, which is to be a well-wisher of all. In these moments, can you wish yourself well? Acknowledging your sincerity. You might take these moments to offer your blessings to someone who may be in need. To those in your inner circle. Reflecting on this third intention, the intention which cultivates harmlessness, this realm of karuna or compassion, offering the sense of compassion to yourself. If you were to hold yourself in a quality of compassion or empathy, what does that feel like right now? If you were to offer that quality out to another right now, what does that feel like? You might like to explore just in these final moments as you reflect on intention. When you think of this precious life, you might complete the following phrase internally and silently. And if a word doesn't arise or a phrase doesn't arrive spontaneously, just make one up that most resonates for you now. Completing the following. In this life, I am here too. As you're ready, you can gently deepen the breath. And when you're ready, you can let your eyes open. Thank you for your kind attention. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share these practices, truly. As you may know, we offer yoga before class, which is a really wonderful opportunity to come and release some deep-seated tension before coming in. And Rita, I wonder if you might just want to say a few things about the class and what you're offering and so forth. You want to come up? Can I give you the mic? That'd be great. And thank you for instigating this. It's been really, really cool.
Hi, I'm Rita. The yoga that we're offering is it's a wonderful program and wonderful opportunity to be able to move before we come into meditation practice. And there are three of us that are offering the class. We're all trained through Kripalu, which is and it's a Kripalu-based yoga, which is an awareness-based yoga. It's a 50-minute class, and we go through, we teach breath to bring the mind into alignment with the body. And then we do some warm-ups, and then the yoga poses, and then relaxation. I've found it to be really wonderful to help me with my meditation practice. It's certainly helped me cultivate equanimity. You know, we have times in our life where something moves physically well and then some things don't. So when we're standing in poses, for instance, one side might be in balance and the other side isn't. And it's an opportunity to see how we can hold that and be with that. So it's been a wonderful complement to my meditation practice, and it was wonderful of Jonathan to give us this opportunity to offer it to all of you. So I hope you will come, and I'd love to see you there. Thanks.
If you have a lot of background in yoga, I think you'll find the approach really spacious. Kind of gives you room to do your own thing. And if you're yoga phobic, or new, I think you'll find it to be quite accessible as well. Yeah. So thank you so much. I think we've got some cookies out there. Might want to regulate your intention regarding those. And thank you for your support for the class. If you'd like to sign up in the back, please feel free. And enjoy your week. See you next week.